Hi, it's Todd from Todd Cutler here, and we're doing a book review. And these are books which I found really fascinating, useful, interesting, engaging, whatever it is, but a book that has meant something to me. And today I have a new entry for me actually, Ouch! The History of Arrow Wound Treatment by Kevin Goodman. Here you go, link in the notes. Now I only bought this about a year ago. It's been out since 2012, I think. And the first thing I have to say about it is absolutely fantastic. Now, let's face it, the history of arrow wound treatment does not sound like a winning book unless you are seriously interested in that subject. And I'm superficially interested in the history of arrow wound treatment. I'm interested in arrows. Obviously, I did the Arrows versus Armour series. I shoot a longbow and have done for years. I bought this because I thought for whatever it was, the £20 that it cost me, $25, wow, there'll be something in there that's worth having a look at, whatever. It's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. So I don't know Kevin Goodman at all. I think he's a UK author. I think he might be a reenactor. I'm not sure. Certainly never met the chap. I've got nothing to do with him. But it is incredibly well researched. So I don't know what his history is. Whether he's a PhD, a professional researcher, or he's just an amateur who's interested. I don't know. But it is brilliantly researched. So it goes through from prehistory, so even pre-ancient Greece. And it goes through all aspects of it. So it's not just how they treat the wound and what treaties were written at the time, because obviously, you've got whoever it was that was doing it in ancient Greece, and then a little bit later you've got Galen and so on, and we come through to the medieval medical authors, a lot of which I don't know the name of, but there's lots of treaties out there. So he talks about the medical side of it, who was writing about it, who was practicing it, how they did it, but of course hand in hand with the instruments that they used, the wounds that were given, is what the weapons were that were giving the wounds. So it talks a lot about those as well. And fantastic information on poisoned arrows, for instance, which again goes through the ages. But of course, this all sort of goes in fits and spurts. So you go through the ancient world, and in fact, toxophilae, which is the study of arrows, is the same, or bows and arrows, is the same root as toxin. So arrows and poison, actually, they are so closely entwined. They have the same root. Now, you have ancient Greece, you're going through. Now, that the use of bows carries on, obviously, throughout the Western world until the advent of the gun. So let's say bows fall out of use about 1550-ish. And then the gun comes along. But of course, all those Westerners who've just gone sigh of relief that they're not getting shot by arrows anymore start to decide to colonise the world, and so they start meeting up with native peoples in the Africas and the Americas and Far East and so on, who are still well into their bows. And so you get a little brief lull for maybe about 50, 100 years, and then arrow wound treatment starts coming back again. And as colonisation has then stopped people largely getting shot with bows, it disappears again. And then we come back to Native America, where of course you've got the push across the West that starts bringing people back into contact with arrow wounds again. So you get these waves of the use of having to treat them and then falling away and then treating them again. But all the way through this, he talks about how you treat the wounds. Like, just a very simple thing, which is really staggeringly obvious that I didn't realise, was that the first thing, whether you go to prehistory or the modern world, is what position were you in when you were shot? Because if you're shot by a barbed head, for instance, you want that slit through your muscles and your abdomen to be as aligned as possible when you're drawing that head out. You don't want to be causing more trauma. So it's just so fascinating in so many ways. So it talks about how to treat the wounds, the various poultices and the ways of dealing with the wounds themselves, and stuffing bits of bacon in wounds to create pus and infection was a favourite one, but that was a theory for years. Just the staggering length of time that you can have an arrowhead lodged in your body or your head. And this is not a one-off, but then documented that 6 years later a barbed head falls out your nose or whatever it is. It's just an incredible book. And one thing on the back that I would absolutely start with on the blurb on the back: forget what you think you know about arrow wound treatment. I knew nothing. Ignore what you have seen in films. I knew nothing. I knew films are generally wrong. The treatment of arrow wounds is one of the oldest medical and surgical procedures still being performed today. And this book reveals how innovative physicians and surgeons of the past were treating arrow wounds. But not just in Europe. This is not a Eurocentric book. So it looks again at the Middle East. It looks at Asia. It looks at the Far East. So Kevin Goodman, my goodness, you wrote a good one here. Although actually I am going to say one thing. And I do have a criticism. And this is an unfair criticism, so I'm saying that at the beginning. But let's just say we come to a chapter where it's dealing with poison recipes. Now, what Kevin Goodman has done is a fairly standard way of doing it, which is he puts the notes at the end of the chapter. So, for instance, if it's talking about a particular ingredient that I'm familiar with, a lot of them I were, I don't know what it is. I have to skim back to the end of the chapter to find the notes section about what that substance was, for instance. Now, that's pretty normal behaviour. It could have been footnoted. I would have preferred if it was that. So that is my tiny, tiny, tiny little criticism, that actually footnotes on each page would have been more useful to me. However, it's a totally standard way of laying out a book. There's no problem with it. And all the information is here. And my goodness, actually, before I do that, sorry, Kevin, I shouldn't have done that criticism, but it is how I felt. But my goodness, the references are in there. He has absolutely milked the planet to get the information that is in this book. And it shows. Oh, here we go. Kevin Goodman is a medical historian and author. There we are. Well, that's not a great surprise, because the quality of work in this, brilliant. So I'll say it again. Kevin Goodman, stunner. Go forth, buy this book. If you have the remotest interest in archery, historical doctoring, historical medicine, surgery, or if you're just casually interested in history, it is brilliant. But anyway, clearly I enjoyed that book. But if you enjoyed my review of it, if you're interested in medieval history, go check out our channels. We've got a main YouTube channel, toddsworkshop.com. We've got this second one here, toddcutler.com. And we have 2 websites selling fantastic medieval weaponry under the same names. Go check them out, because if you like this, you will love what we sell there. See you again.